I'm Leslie Harris. That's Marianne Willburn. And we are mixing it up on the garden mixer. Cheers.
Cheers. How are you? Drinking, obviously.
Better now.
What are you drinking, Leslie?
Oh, I did something fun. So just came home from out of town, had the bottom dregs of a bottle of rosé. That doesn't quite get me through a conversation with Marianne. I need more stuff.
I need to medicate when I'm talking to her. I know I asked her to say that once to me. I really need to be on my medication when I'm talking to you.
Like listening.
Or listening. Maybe that was the point. All right, moving on.
Rosé spritzer. So I asked Chad, I'm like, hey, what can I do with a bottle of the dregs of a bottle of rosé? And Chad came up with rosé spritzer, but it's so boring. I'm just going to throw some seltzer in there. But no, Chad got a little more clever. Did I have some elderberry wine, such as a Saint Germain? Yes, I did. Did I have some lemon juice? Yes, I did. And then the spritzer. So it's very light. And cheers.
Wait, so elderflower liqueur, right? Saint Germain? Okay.
Yeah, what did I say? Elderberry?
Elderberry wine, like arsenic and old lace. So AI has mixed your drink. Is there nothing that AI
there are a lot of things that AI doesn't do well, but I think it did this pretty well.
I'm almost uncomfortable with how much you're starting to rely on AI in our lives together.
Well, I mean, try to keep up, Marianne. I'm just using a resource that's newly available to me.
It's mixing your drinks.
Go.
All right, fair enough.
What are you having?
Gin and tonic, and I needed no help of a robot to help me mix this beautiful thing, let me tell you. And it's just the way I like it, which is, I was going to say slightly warm, which doesn't sound right. It's not ice cold, and I don't like my gin and tonic ice cold.
Well, also there's an issue with ice in our recording. So I tried to go with fewer. Everybody, can you hear that? Can you see that? I tried to go with fewer cubes. I mean, we're professionals here. We're professional drinkers.
Right. Moving swiftly on. What the hell are we talking about today?
Well, we are recording on March 26th, which I just flew into Charlottesville after being away for about a week. And oh my gosh, it's all happening here. But this is coming out in 2 weeks' time, and it's going to be, we are going to be lousy with spring. We're going to be rolling around in pastures surrounded by butterflies and bees. Well, maybe not, but it's going to be full on spring by the time you people hear this. So we thought we talk about a harbinger of spring, and it is the daffodil.
Oh, that's a very lovely bouquet. Now, where did you pick those from? Your garden?
Yes, every single one of my.
Okay, so tell me what that double white is and hold it up to the camera because I want to see it again.
Okay, well, I have two of them, neither of which I planted.
All right.
And I think one of them, okay. So this one has the, I'm so bad at these identification things, but that has that kind of star stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. You're good at this.
No, I'm not. It's a different one.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay.
Right?
Now, here's the interesting thing. I really don't like double flowers very much. I mean, I don't hate them, but I'm not a big fan of them. But I do find them fascinating in daffodils.
They're beautiful. I think it's they've got a bum wrap, and it's absolutely true that insects can't access them as well as singles. But I'm sorry, I like them, so I'm going to grow some.
Well, when it comes to daffodils, they are not major pollinator contributors to the ecosystem anyway.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Depending. I mean, the species Narcissus, a bit more to a lot more. But a lot of the hybrids that we have are not real. They're not doing it. They are beautiful. They're not doing it.
I know.
But they are absolutely beautiful. They have a lot of pollen. I mean, if you put your finger into it, so I can match I will see your bouquet.
Oh, look at you.
I'll match it, and I'll match it twice just to show how much better. There we go.
She's on 11 acres, people. I'm on an HOA. Okay. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Pretty. And I bet it smells really good too.
It smells amazing.
I'll just hold up my single.
Speaking of internet information, whoops. we were just discussing during the One More Sip podcast, uh, part of the garden mixer, lousy internet information. I was reading over and over how the narcissus, because it's been so bred, it has lost all of its fragrance, pollen, and nectar,
Well,
which
not
is
fragrance.
not fragrance, no. And even for large guys like this one, this is Dutch Master
Oh, a
and
classic.
classic, and it has a wonderful fragrance, really a big one. And pollen is very much there, quite a lot of pollen,
Hmm.
and very heavy pollen, very heavy pollen. But nectar, I
Not so
can't,
much.
not so much. I have yet to get a microscope out, which I could. I've got a lovely little field microscope, which helps with this sort of thing. Although I don't know what I would see with pollen. And I'm actually going to open this up right now, and just look at the bottom of it. Um, yeah. So not that I can
Hold it
see.
up. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing nothing. I'm seeing
Okay.
I'm seeing a cross section though. That's a fascinating cross section.
Oh, yeah. That's the big
Yeah,
old anther there sitting there,
all of it
all
because
sexy.
they are, what do you call it? Hermaphroditic?
I
Is that
think
the way
so.
to say
Yeah.
it? Both male and female. So you not only have the stamens, you have the pistil, and you got sex baby all going on inside of the plant. See, there's the pollen. I can feel it on the backside of my fingers, but not putting my fingers down deep in there. N- I'm not getting any nectar out of
And
that.
what would it feel like? Sticky stuff?
Well, I would imagine it would. I'm not an ecologist, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who are just listening to this podcast,
Who are
super
just going,
carnival,
these
who are
poor
going,
stupid ladies.
yeah,
They should be on TikTok.
they should be on TikTok showing up what they don't know. I don't think that there's a lot of nectar in daffodils, and if you look online to find out the ecological benefits, just looking online, Google searches, not going into like JSTOR and looking into research papers, it, everything is very anti daffodils in terms of their ecological benefit, but it's anti like to a next level. It's not even saying yes, there's pollen, because the bees do use this pollen, and but they don't tend to visit. That's the thing.
So it's a good look for us. We love it. And I don't think anybody's ever going to stop growing daffodils, even though they're toxic and they don't really contribute to the ecosystem. However, they're kind of irresistible, and I just love them. And they're so, that there are 26,000 different types, different cultivars, and they have those 13 classifications, some of which we just spat out with the split corona and the trumpet. And then there's that poeticus thing where it's like a pheasant eye and the orange cup is lined with red. There's that. And then there are the tazetta types, which have 2 or 3 dinglies coming off of one stem. There
Yeah.
are the doubles. One of my favorites which is a combination of that, is a late one that tends to be rather expensive, which is too bad, but it smells so good that it's worth it to me. And it's Winston Churchill. Have you ever grown that
Yes,
one?
I do grow that one, and I love that. It's a very beautiful one. It's a little later though than
Much
right now.
later, yeah, than right
Yeah.
now. So we don't have it. And so actually, by the time this is coming out, if people are looking around and seeing daffodils in their buddies' yards, and they're saying, they're naming that section of the show that we sometimes do. Damn, I wish I'd planted that. Winston Churchill might be one of them, and there are a couple of other late ones that I could name, and I will. The latest ones that I found that I have personal experience with are the Sir Winston Churchill, and then also Cheerfulness, which is actually quite similar, but I don't think quite as odoriferous and wonderful. Cheerfulness is a double, but 2 to 3 blooms per stem. Again, like Sir Winston Churchill, creamy white, but with orange dashes coming through it. Really cool. And then Thalia, and you say Talia, I know, is a white, which is quite light,
Love it.
right? And you grow a ton of that.
I grow a ton of that. I love that daffodil. It's very pure white. It's not vulgar. Some of these are quite big, and it just perfectly, once all of the Dutch Master and the Barrowan and the Rapture. This is Rapture. This is a cyclamen type, and you can see how its petals here what do
Have
they
been blown in
branch?
the wind.
It's almost like they've been pulled back, and that's one of the divisions. This is Rapture, and it's early. Once all of this is gone and they're dying back, then the Talias come in, and the Talias come in white, and they create this foil for all of the things that are going on in the garden that are starting to be not just yellow, but sort of oranges and reddening buds and stems. And I just love that combination. So yeah, I grow a lot of Talia.
It's a beautiful daffodil, but I would say that I fell in love with one that I haven't planted here yet, but I will. And it was particularly useful along the bottom of my yard, along the stream. I planted it. I probably sunk about 2,000 of those guys, and it's called Watch Up. And I don't know, I think Brent and Becky sells it, but I know Color Blends does. That's where I'd gotten mine. And it is very late. It's not white, like Talia is really white, not creamy, right? Or is
Yeah,
it?
it's white.
It's
Yeah.
white. Watch Up is creamy. So you could argue that, well, I see a very, very, very light yellow there. Creamy white, I would say. And it's trumpet and it's big. And instead of a nodding flower, the flower points up. And it's just so cool because, a lot of times you're walking by daffodils and you're not down on your hands and knees weeding like we might be. So it's just a beautiful one. Watch Up.
Watch Up. I have never heard of that one before, so I'll put it on my list because I do love to just try them and see, how I'm going to like them. You never know. It's just fun to have. I think when you do your bowl border in the summer, hopefully you're doing it in the early summer. It's a good idea just to, once you do your, okay, this is what I want, go, you know what? Let me try some of that and that and that, and just do 10 bulbs just to see when they bloom and how well they work in your landscape. I think that's a good thing to do.
The good catalogs will also guide you, as much as they can, because what's middle or late or early in, North Carolina is different what's going on in Maine, but it'll guide you as to when they should bloom approximately. And don't go for one season, like get a whole spread.
I
Start
wish
off.
that's something that I wish that I'd realized 20 years ago when I was growing daffodils. It's not just daffodils, it's early, mid, and late, and
Yeah.
use every ounce of that season. And it can be as early as February to as late April, beginning of May. So use every ounce of that. I have a really cool one I wanted to show you called Casada, which is a split
Oh,
corona.
I've
And
heard
I
of
don't
that.
know if you know that one, but
I've
so
definitely heard of it. I don't know if I've grown it.
here's Ice Follies.
Oh, that's
Okay.
a classic.
And that's a classic, and it's a very strong. And if you're just trying to add a little bit of contrast to your very yellow Dutch Master extravaganza, this is a terrific one because the Corona is just a little bit yellow, but
Very
not
lemony,
very
yeah.
lemony. Yeah. And it blooms around the same time. But there's Casada, which is a split so that corona is split. Do you see? Same sort of
Yes.
lemony color, but as this ages, this becomes white. So the whole,
Oh,
and this is starting to bloom now. And by the time this is going white, Talia is just starting to open, which is also white. So that's a very cool um, way to use a couple different ones. So I want to go back though, real quick, with the pollen and the nectar and the all that jazz, and just do a quick caveat in that we're talking a lot about the hybrids, and we weren't talking about a lot of the species daffodils, which for me, I grow a lot of the very early petticoat daffodils. The let's see, Remusii, which is very early, and Cantabricus and Bulbocodium. And
oh, the one that looks like a hoop skirt.
yeah, they all look like hoop skirts, but just varying degrees of it. And those are visited by pollinators, and I routinely see them, little tiny bees in them when the weather is warm, when it warms up. So this morning I walked down to just sort of get an idea. They're great to naturalize through a lawn, and they truly do naturalize. They don't just perennialize because there's a difference. They spread themselves by seed, not necessarily a little bit by growing bigger clumps, but really by seed, and that's true naturalization. Whereas the hybrids tend to perennialize. They get
Hmm.
bigger and bigger clumps, and they can set seed. And obviously, we get all these hybrids by cross pollination, but because they're self fertile, you don't tend to have different ones in those clumps. They don't tend to cross pollinate too much. So, but these little guys, they do have pollen. I don't know about the nectar, but they do have pollen. And I was watching some little tiny bees, which I couldn't identify today when the sun was shining. And it was down deep trying to get nectar out of this thing. Whether it was succeeding or not, I don't know. And then it came up and sort of moved around in the pollen for a little bit. And it was not a European honeybee. It was a small, just a small bee, which again, I'm not an entomologist. There were several on those bulbocodiums. So they are attracting something. And if you're concerned about that, maybe look into some of those species.
Do your research, find out, but don't be afraid to mix up in terms of early, middle, late, and super early. Some of the earliest ones are those bulbocodiums, right?
Yes, but there's things earlier than that, like February Gold,
Hmm.
like Reinfeld's Early Sensation. I think Rip Van Winkle's very early.
There's one called the Early Cheer, which is not early; it's mid. So just do your homework. Get a mix, but also get a mix of if you there's nothing better than a big stand of the same one, but you can mix it up in terms of timing. You can also mix it up in terms of color. Um, I know that many of these catalogs can help you, but I particularly am a fan of color blends because they'll sell you a blend like they've already, and you can look at that picture and say, oh yes, I really like all those together, and you can add one more if you want to. I used to put two together that were called Pipit and Sailboat because, and I'll hold up the
I love Pipit.
Corona. Yeah, pivot. And I don't know what this one is. I didn't plant it, but it was in my yard. So in either pipit or sailboat, the trumpet was more yellow than, and a good contrast to the, what do we call these, sepals?
No, they're not sepals. They're perianths. They're petals or perianth. I think.
That's this I do not know.
That's the non-bot.
But those two had opposites. So picture this with opposite coloring, but it was stronger. So don't be boring with your daffodils, people. So that's our yellow section.
That is a lot of yellow. Is there anything else we want to say about daffodils? Do you know that daffodils are the subject of controversy, which I realized when I was doing a little bit of Googling
Well, I
about
think you
nectar
sort of,
training?
you hinted at that when you said that that you found a lot of information about them not really helping us. Oops.
Yes, there were two articles in particular that were fascinating to me because I didn't really think that you could get angry when you look at a daffodil, but apparently
Wait,
you
and
can.
you didn't think that you could get angry, so that's saying something. No, I'm kidding.
That's saying something. You
Summit.
just say yes. One of them was from the UK, and this person was disparaging the idea of a small clump of daffodils planted on the verge of the roadside and called it nature's graffiti.
Oh,
Uh,
please. That's an
yes,
angry person.
this
That's a
is I
person with
okay.
issues. That has nothing to do with horticulture. This person needs help, right?
Well, actually, I think he said something along those lines. Let me just
Like, I'm in therapy, but I'm working through it.
no. It was called Feral Daffodils. And he said he saw them as planted intruders into the natural countryside rather than aspects of nature. And that he said that he knew that it was a feeling that was bordering on the irrational or stepping into that realm. But he still stuck with it, and it was when he would see them, it was a feeling of resentment bordering on hate.
Oh.
Okay, so this was it's not shocking to me because everybody just seems angry now. You know what? Angry about everything, and let's absolutely bring plants into it. um I have absolutely the opposite reaction. When I see, like, for instance, I was just in England and I saw a lot of snowdrops on the verges, which I don't tend to see here. People don't tend to plant snowdrops on verges, they keep them all for themselves. Or I
Smart
think
people.
maybe people would probably dig them up and take them home. When I saw them there, it gave me a feeling of of joy for the person that had planted them, because they are not native to the UK. And if you're seeing them on a verge, it's most likely that they have been planted at some point. And it just gives you sort of a hope for goodness in people, because that person is not necessarily going to see them every single day. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but they're giving joy to somebody else, to another human being. Now, I recognize that there are nihilists out there who hate the human race and think that we are separate from the
Nature.
planet, from
Yeah.
nature, which means that we, I guess, came from Jupiter.
Yeah, probably
Or
Jupiter, I'm
you
thinking.
think
Mhm.
Jupiter? I don't know. But
I don't know. It's a
Mars,
nice big
maybe.
planet.
I
Mars had water at one stage. Yeah, maybe. Because what are we doing here? Some people think.
Right. And so there's just this feeling of, as Ben Fott says, human supremacy. This idea of human supremacy. And okay, but that's profoundly nihilistic in my mind. And when I look at something like those snowdrops or daffodils on the side of the road, there's a story there. There's a person who took time to put those plants into the ground. Or in the case of my friend Louisa and I, tossed them into a creek one night after a couple gin and tonics. And now, as I drive down the creek and as others drive down the lane, and there's just a few little jonquils in along the banks, it's a great deal of joy to
Yeah,
see
and
that.
people who have nothing to do with gardening. I was driving with a friend who passes by a little spot of woods in back of some houses as we're going to her house, and she said, "Look at that! They're coming. Every year I see them, and they're coming." She knows nothing about gardening, and it just brings her joy. So I'm not quite sure um, why human supremacy is a surprise to anybody. We are totally winning. We're killing it. I mean, we need the insects. We need some of this stuff, but if humans weren't on this earth, the earth would be doing just fine. But we happen to be winning this game. And so if we're throwing some flowers around, I don't see how that's so bad.
So I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that phrase, "we're winning." I mean, it's funny. I'll give you that.
Clickbait.
Clickbait. We're winning.
So winning.
I don't like to see it that way. I think what we need to be working towards is more synergy between us and the planet. And I
Oh,
think
I
you
think any
do.
gardener does that.
Winning implies it has a positive pejorative. Is that a positive?
No, pejorative is negative, and we have had a very pejorative impact on this planet because of the terrible things that we're doing. And
Right.
right now, it's all about the plastic. First it was coal and the air, and the rivers are improving, but not fast enough. And the people who say that we humans are killing this planet are quite possibly correct. Luckily, you and I are very old, so we don't have to worry too much about it. But we are indeed part of nature. So if that happens, it's just going to be like, oh my God, this rogue grizzly bear breed just got crazy and started, manufacturing things, and then it destroyed everything. It happened to be us, but we are dominating for better or worse. A lot of times it's worse.
Since you and I were kids, there has been a profound amount of change that is good change to the
Yes.
environment. You remember probably the Schoolhouse Rocks litter commercial that we'd watch during our Saturday morning cartoons that would tell us not to litter and tell us to take care of nature and tell us to, look after the world around us. And that had a real profound effect on our generation.
Yeah,
And I think that we have made massive strides in that
absolutely.
over the last 30, 40 years. But we never focus on the massive strides we make. We all we want to do is put the hair shirt on and keep the flagellation going. And I'm not saying that we can't get better, because there's always a way to get better, but come on, guys, let's look at, some of look at the air in LA for one.
So much
I
better.
mean,
Yeah.
I lived in LA, just 30 years ago, and I can tell you it's better now when I go back. I mean, there's a lot of positive things.
I think that you're right that we don't acknowledge the strides that we've made. My father, we had a sailboat, and I remember my father filling up paper bags with our garbage and our trash, and sinking them in the Chesapeake Bay. And I would question him. I'm like, "Dad, is that okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's what you got to do."
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So that kind of thing, of course, has totally changed. Here's the trouble. We're making new problems with new things, lithium batteries and plastics.
Oh
And,
yeah.
what do we do? We're littering space. So this is a gardening podcast. So we should quickly back away.
Right, I know. And what I was basically saying was that it's crazy to me with all of those problems in the world to see snowdrops and daffodils as greenwashing, um, pretending, assuming they have benefit. This is from actually the Monarch Garden, Ben Bott's. It's the Deep Middle is his blog, and this is on daffodils, climate change, and colonization. And obviously, this is about a greater political message. That side of the argument, everything is interconnected. This is all interconnected in this terrible Western culture nightmare that we're all struggling to rid ourselves of. And the daffodils are part of that. They symbolize that. And
To him.
to him, it's part of horticultural colonization and what he calls human supremacy. And I just reject that argument. I reject it fully.
He needs to see somebody.
Yep. I mean, that's very dismissive.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I do agree that you can bring anger and that churning to a certain level. And it's not because I don't want to have a difficult conversation. That's absolutely not it. I just don't want to. It's very hard. You don't, but
I
it's
do
very
not.
hard to have a conversation with somebody who's starting from a premise that human beings are innately evil and or alien to a place.
Yeah.
We're not alien to this planet. We are of this planet, as far as we know. And we need to do better. But planting a freaking daffodil and some snowdrops. And by the way, I got a lot of bees on my snowdrops. Lots.
Good, good.
Lots and lots and lots of them. In fact, it was fascinating to watch them snaking themselves up in there because that snowdrop is really protecting all of its sexual bits.
Yeah.
With those nodding heads. And that was fun to watch at an early part of the year. So anyway, I think that's about all I can rant on about that.
Okay, good.
But I would say to listeners, we'll put the articles that we've talked about, we'll put those in the show notes so that you can go and read them for yourselves and think about them and
Report back to us
hopefully
because there will be a quiz.
there will be a quiz. And hopefully not report back to us in our comments on Substack where you can find the show notes, but on the posts themselves, because when you're writing something, it's really helpful if the conversation to a certain extent remains on that platform so you can answer the arguments.
Let me just tell you an example of that. Marianne wrote a really good blog post talking basically about Garden Rant and the purpose of it. And there's a place where you can leave a comment, but what do? I hop on my phone and I text her. I'm like, that was really good. That was great. And she writes back and said, oh yeah, you could put that on the comments underneath the essay that I wrote. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I never did. So it's a good thing to do that.
It's okay to have discussions. For instance, a lot of the essays that we write on Garden Rant get taken into Facebook groups and
torn apart or built up or whatever.
But and that's fine. But you are not, if you're not going to have the conversation there on that blog post, it makes it very hard for the author to answer you,
right,
and for you to be able to converse with them. So that's why I'm just encouraging you to have that. I very much disagree with that point of view, but it's a good idea to do that on the post itself, which I better do after this podcast.
Walk the walk when you're talking the talk.
Yeah.
All right. So we've been all yellow. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if this is happening for you because you're a few hours north of me, but get off the plane, get into the Uber, and I'm driving through Charlottesville, and all of a sudden I'm like, that forsythia is not yellow anymore. It's turning green, and it brings that. I like it. I like the bright yellow because it's a harbinger of spring. I know some people hate that plant. Talk about plants that could get your blood pressure going. Some people really hate forsythia. I'm not a huge admirer. I would never grow it in my tiny garden. I'd love to grow more other things. But I kind of like it. And it's cool the way it's mixing in with that bright, bright foliage that's coming along. Is that happening for you right now?
Yeah, it is. And some of these plants, yeah, you may not love them. I'm right where you are with forsythia, but I do grow a few here because there was one here when we came, and I moved it a little bit, and I grow another one called flying machine. Uh, but they're almost cultural.
Yeah.
They become a part of that
The Asian landscape. Oops,
the
wait, we're in America.
Asian landscape.
Oopsie.
Yeah. So that which reaches out to non-gardeners, right?
Yes, yes, like my friend.
That
Oh, look at voices. And in fact, I remember before I was a gardener, I'm in my early 20s, and my boss's wife, the headmaster's wife, said to me, her name was Ish. She was so cute. I don't think she's with us anymore. She said, I love spring because in spring, everything's yellow, and it's yellow, 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 yellow. And then it kind of turns pink. And that was a very simplistic way of talking about spring, but it's kind of true. But we are going to go blue. We're going, what do you call that opposite color? The
the
complementary color
Yes, that's
of
right.
blue.
On the color wheel, which is it's over there. So,
Don't go get it. Just stay in your
oh,
seat.
could I just go get
Stay
it?
seated.
All right. Okay.
Well, and blue is such a great foil for yellow. And here it comes. So we've got some things that are happening or about to happen. By the time you all hear this, they'll be happening in some of our gardens. But we're not sad about them. They just happen to be blue. And is this a damn? I wish I'd planted that thing.
I think we could call this "Damn, I wish I'd planted that" because the majority of non-gardeners, right, consumer gardeners, they go daffodil, they go forsythia, uh, big yellow pansies, and all of that, and then they see these little touches of blue in places and think, "Oh, oh, I missed out. What is that?
Oh, pretty,
I
pretty,
should have
pretty.
planted that." So the idea of "Damn, I wish I'd planted that," which was something that I did on my blog for many years, on a monthly basis, was that in order to fill those gaps that we all have in our flowering and or foliage, just the beauty of the garden, those beauty gaps, the best way to do that is to recognize the gap for one and say, "Ooh, okay, not liking this. There's not a lot going on."
Here's a lot of
And
mulch. Let's see what we could do.
that's right. And then take your little self and go see some gardens in your area. Walk, drive, whatever you need to do, and go see what's blooming right now in your area. And then make a note of it. And then when you are at the garden center, you can ask about it or you can look it up because it may not do well for you. You know, that you may be looking at a garden on the top of a hillside and you're stuck down in a valley like I am. So it's really important to make sure that you know it's something that you well I don't want to say should be growing, but you know you probably don't want to bring it out into your garden.
You can give it a try, though. I mean, my tendency is to throw.
Invasive.
Well, no, actually, you know what? One of the best combinations of blue and yellow is that happens really early spring, and it's very sad. Alien invasive, Vinca minor, cute bluey purple little flowers with the tiny little what's one of those really early daffodils coming up, or any early daffodil, and you're like, magical. But Vinca's a terrible plant, so let's move on. Our plants.
Magical, but I hate it.
But
Okay. So yes.
it does look so cute.
No,
Uh,
I totally get that. You know, one of the coolest things that I've ripped out is the speedwell weed that goes all over underneath the Talia and blooms those tiny little blue blossoms.
why did you
It
rip them out?
The speedwell is such a pain in the ass weed. Oh, I'm not supposed
Oh,
to. Can I say ass
I think
even?
ass. We're saying damn, we're saying ass. Just don't drop the big ones.
All right. Okay. I am married to a Marine. You know that, right? It makes a big difference.
Yes, I know.
Um, so it looked great, but then it doesn't look great. It looks like, oh, that's a big weedy bed. So it had to come out, and I'd much rather use something like myosotis.
Which some people do, think is weedy. Also, I do not. I'm a huge Myosotis fan. So this is our first damn. I wish I'd planted that. One of the very first gardens I visited up in Connecticut. I'm in my 20s, I'm sure. And the garden club said, "Oh, come, we're going to go visit a garden." And it was a woodland garden, and it just was the moment. And that's probably about a week for an established garden full of Myosotis. Forget me not.
Hmm.
Um, And it was just, I couldn't get enough of this blue color. And it really, when we are gardeners and we say blue, we sometimes mean purple, but this is blue and it's so cute. It is named for the Greek for mouse ears because of the little leaf. Isn't that cute? Yeah, mouse ears. I'm not good on my Greek, but apparently Myosotis has something to do with mousy ears. And then, even better, Germany lays claim to the earliest record of its common name, which is forget-me-not, and it's kind of for a blue reason. A knight was picking them for his lady on the maybe slippery, or maybe he was wearing a whole lot of heavy chainmail or something, sides of a river, and he falls in and he drowns. And as before his last words, and he chucks the posy of
This
flowers
is
at his
total.
lady. Oh no, I read it on the internet. And he says, "Forget me not."
Oh my God, it gets worse.
And then he goes blah 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 because he's wearing 500 pounds of chainmail.
And then she wrote it down for posterity.
Yeah, and she probably didn't need a book to remember that type of plant, because if you're holding the plant that your dead lover just threw to you, you're going to remember, okay, I got this one. Forget me not.
I think that it would be much more realistic if it's just a plant that seeds to hell and back, and so you cannot forget it.
That's what I always thought it was about, but now you know better.
Wow, what were we discussing before? Like internet information that is.
I didn't ask chat for this one, but I did cross-reference it in some
I'm
people.
gonna have to have another drink on
Okay,
that.
have another drink.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, so this is Myosotis, and it is sadly not native to our country. And when you go to look it up in MOBOT, which is the Missouri Botanical Database, which Marianne and I use a lot, we recommend it. It says in red, I'll just hold this up.
That's doing nothing for me. I've given you. This is ridiculous. I can't read it. Oh, okay. Midwest noxious weed, do not plant.
Yes, that's serious.
Is that Myosotis sylvatica, or
Yeah.
is it? It is.
So the other one, which is the it has a funny adjective like a CUO, I can't remember, but that one's basically the same plant, but it grows in the description was almost identical, but it grows more in water. But I think the sylvatica is what most people have. That's what I have.
That's interesting. I did not know it was a noxious weed in the Midwest.
Noxious weed, and it is very, very aggressive, especially in the north of New England, California, and the Great Lakes districts, unlike that viburnum that we were talking about last time, where you're like, yeah, that's invasive in some little spots, and you see the map. This is like, oh, I see, invasive, but so easy to pull out and such a wonderful thing to have in your garden. So maybe if you live by a woodland and you're noticing that you're forget-me-nots are not forgetting the forest floor and it's really spreading, maybe you do something about it. But I think unless you live in those three parts.
So I have very limited experience with this. This really is this is my second year with it. I'm actually very pleased for the same reason that you are. You saw that beautiful blue. It is smack your face gorgeous with tulips because it provides this underlaying of little blue blossoms against like an orange ballerina or a yellow Cairo tulip. It's just unbelievably beautiful. And I thought, I want to do that. And so I've seeded it, and I've seeded it at the wrong time of year, i.e., this time of year, which is from the plant itself is not throwing its seeds down.
So it's not ready to accept.
So it's not. And it's a cool season plant. And so by the time the spring is starting to move into summer, we've got these little tiny plants, they're starting to get burned up. So it's a fall, it's really something to throw in the early summer when it's starting to seed.
And you'll see that. So what happens to the plant is this little rosette of mouse ear type foliage can either behave, but I have grown this for years and years and years, and I've spread it all over my various gardens. Or it can get rather crispy and moldy. In either case, you're going to have seeds. So if it does behave, I just grab some of the old flowers as seeds. If it doesn't behave, I just cut down the whole thing. And if it grows back, that's great. If it doesn't, I am, Johnny Appleseed walking all over my garden, crunch, crunch, crunch. And I just throw those suckers down wherever I want it to grow. And I have a lot of it. And it inadvertently, I knew I didn't have to like bring it from my old garden when I moved. It came. just like some of the other things that are just that the seeds are just going to be everywhere. And so I have it now without even trying. So yeah, I guess it's a little aggressive, but I love it.
Well, what I have noticed with mine that finally I got sick of not doing the seeds at the right time and sort of doing them, starting to do them at the right time. I bought a couple plants and those
Oh,
threw seeds. And so then I had plants that were going into the fall and now coming into the spring. I've got plants that seeded themselves, well. And so I'm seeing how it can create a very mounding mass that would cover things around it. Absolutely, I could see that. It might, I don't know if it would cover claytonia or that sort of thing in the woodland because I could see that that could be a problem, but there's so many other things that are doing that too.
it
And you
it
can pull it
surprises.
out so
Oh, you can
easily
edit it so easily
that
in the swipe of a hand.
mouse ear chickweed, which it looks a tiny, tiny bit like it.
Okay.
Not chickweed, but the mouse ear chickweed, which is a little bit fuzzier. That makes that sort of that mounding. I have to take a second when I'm weeding. Is that okay? No, that's that. That's causing little mounds of not so good, and it's everywhere in the garden. So in any case, I'm excited. I'm going to have a lot of it this year, and I'm looking
I
forward.
am shocked that you saw it at a nursery. First of all, because of its invasive tendencies. I think Virginia just passed a law saying that within the nursery industry, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, and I will find out for a clear up quarter, something good about not selling like clearly alien invasive plants that are going into the forest. And I know you and I have slightly differing opinions about this, but if the ones that are just really kind of, I just don't want to see all that autumn olive and that sort of thing. I think that it's silly. There are enough of them already. We do not need to be selling it to people. So I'm surprised that you were able to buy Myosotis because I just thought of it as a pass along plant.
Yeah, and I can't remember where I did actually buy it, but I bought a few of them, and I think two or three of them, and yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm obviously an eco-terrorist, but then who
Clearly,
would be as an alien species from another planet?
unlike most terrible plants, it is not native to Asia. It is native to Europe. And it grows in zones. Just if you're a beginner who doesn't know about this plant, it's I think most people can picture a forget me not, but if you can't, it's a low growing perennial that will bloom very soon in April for me anyway in Virginia, and it's zones 3 to 8. So it's I love it. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Well,
Sorry, I'm not sorry.
why don't we even the score a little bit, like the moral
Yeah, we
balance?
need to balance this. Can you
Yeah, let's
can you bring us
balance this.
back to goodness?
I can bring us back with Mertensia. Uh,
Yay!
and this is the Virginia bluebell, Mertensia virginiana. And what a stunning
It's
words fail
stunning.
me. It's stunning. It's such a beautiful plant. However, it can be difficult for you if you don't have the right growing conditions for it. And where it proliferates is on in floodplains, along rivers, in sandy sort of woodland areas, and ding 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 ding, that's where I live. So you would think that it would be absolutely carpeted with Mertensia. And before the native plant enthusiasts who stopped listening to our show years ago, almost as soon as it started, I've got a lot of pawpaw in there and a lot of different things that it's not just filled with invasives, that area of the woodland garden. So I was really surprised there was no Mertensia in there. There was no sanguinaria in there, no bloodroot, no trillium. I do have a deer population, and they don't eat the bluebells, but they do eat trillium. They eat sanguinaria, bloodroot, etc. So in any case, I thought, well, it's up to me to change this. This area should have by rights Mertensia in it, bluebells
Crying out for it.
crying out for it. And so I started picking them up at whenever I saw them and planting them. And I've got quite a few now in that area. And my idea is for it just to be a carpet of blue when you drive by and look down into even further down. to the valley in which I live. First it's the snowdrops, and then it's the mertensia. And I think the reason that these bluebells are so extra special, and I think that they're much more special than the English bluebell or the Spanish bluebell or even the Texas bluebonnet, although those are very beautiful, is because it's got these little what are they, chimes? It's like a grouping of flowers, little bells. They are true blue bells. They're bells, and they're almost iridescent. In fact, there's no almost about them. They are iridescent purple. Sometimes you get different forms. I've got a white form. I've got a pink form that just sprang out of nowhere, which is so exciting. But I think the coolest part about them is just watching those leaves, those
Oh,
purple leaves start, and they're up about 4 inches right now, starting to come through the forest floor and begin and holding those tightly curled buds that are a little bit
pink,
purple.
like much more pink and purpley, like a lilac color. I have them planted right by the front door in my tiny, tiny garden. And when I first saw those leaves, it's just so exciting. And I think part of the allure is that these are very, very ephemeral. They're here and then they're gone. And so if you have them in a garden bed, it would be nice to plan for something to take their place because they will be gone, gone. You can divide up the rhizomes. Probably you want to do that before you forget where they are.
They're tubers, aren't they?
Are
Aren't
they
they
tubers?
tubers? Yeah, I think they are.
Uh, yeah, you can dig them up, break them up, but you'll forget where you planted them unless you have a really good memory. In your valley, do you do anything because that's a wild space? Do you do anything to take their place?
No, I think once the bluebells are done, I've already had galanthus, snowdrops, the sanguinaria, the trillium that I'm trying to put in there. And so the mertensia is just sort of the last hurrah of that space, and then it just becomes a very cool summer walk
Nice.
through that space. I don't have anything else because at that point I'm battling deer,
Yeah.
and I'm battling deer all the time, and I can't go down and spray and fence and all of that.
Right.
So
Have you thought about just introducing some spreading form of fern or something?
yes, I have actually, but if I put in something like ostrich fern, Matuchia, then I would have nothing else but fern. So, because now I know that we can't call it invasive because it's not, but it's exceptionally aggressive.
It
And
is.
I have had it completely destroy, just suffocate a nice colony of Erythema triphyllum that I had, Jack in the Pulpit.
Oh,
And I had a lot of it, and I thought, oh, these two things can coexist, and that would be a no. And that is also one of the reasons that I get a little salty with the black and white of native plant good, non-native plant bad, because it's just way more complicated than that. Because ostrich fern is a very native plant, and it's also an extraordinary thug. And you
mhm.
have to be very careful where you plant it. And I do have it planted in a lot of different places on this property as a place that I don't have to worry that deer are going to eat. It's a very lush, primeval look.
It's
Uh,
beautiful. It's a
it's
great plant.
beautiful. If the frost hits it down, which it often does, if we have a late frost, it comes back. But it's a monster of a plant. It really is. It's on an edge of the paved driveway. It's pushing up through the asphalt. That's how strong it
That's
is.
that's strong.
It's very strong. So again, it there are no easy answers in
No.
gardening. And
Can I ask you about 2 other blue plants?
you may have we thrashed out bluebells? I did want to say, if you don't have a valley, a floodplain valley, where's the best place to plant it? What would you say?
Well, right by my front door.
Besides your front door? Help him out. Throw him a bone. Come on.
It could take quite a bit of shade. It can take full sun. It likes wet, just like the, Myosotis likes wet. I don't know. What else? What am I missing
You
here?
don't want to put it under anything evergreen because you do want deciduous shade, not evergreen shade. So if you're
Right?
sticking it under a pine tree, that ain't going to work.
Yeah.
and you want that moisture if you
As
can have
well,
it
as
in
well.
sandier areas. So, something that got morning sun and not that hot, heavy later sun would probably be a
Yeah.
real good idea because it can be strong in the spring.
Mhm.
And mark it with a marker that's going to stay so you know where it's coming up. And then maybe you can dig it and divide it in time to come.
Yeah. So, did you tell me that they were both in the borage family?
They are. It's native to North America, but the Boraginaceae family
Mhm.
goes throughout many, many parts of the world. And yes, Myosotis is, and Mertensia is, and the next one I think that I wanted to talk about, or you can talk about, is Brunnera.
Yeah, Brunnera. But I have a question. I have a quick question before you're going to talk about Brunnera. I have some experience with Brunnera, and I like it a lot. It's amazing how similar those cute little flowers are, Brunnera and Myosotis. But I have one. My rule of thumb is that if I kill a plant, I will try again. And but 3 strikes and you're out. And I went through that with Polemonium, which is the Jacob's ladder, which is also a nice same time, sort of maybe more
Never grown it.
purple. No, what? My head is
Never.
exploding.
I have never
I need
grown
a
it. I've
drink.
wanted to. Yes. So tell me about it. Tell me why I know uh, why I'm an idiot,
No,
basically.
no, you have to. I was hoping that you would tell me why I'm an idiot. 3 strikes you're out at my old big garden, but I'm in the mood to shop today. Bought a ton of things. Oh, including 2 cute hellebores that were very heavily flowered that had the name of your daughter, Emma. Do you grow that one?
No, I do not. Is there an Emma Hellebore? Is it part of the series? What is it?
It's
The
is it
trendy
what?
names of the 90s series?
Yeah, trendy names. I don't know. I'll have to. I noticed that it had the name Emma, and it's a beautiful sort of um how can a flower, and these are the sepals, be almost pink and green at the same time, but not like preppy, just mauve, kind of soft, really pretty. I'll send you a photograph.
I will have some in my garden next time I come to visit.
Oh well, she's the burglar. But so I don't know anything about polemonium except how to kill it. This is my skill. And I've exhibited it several times at my old garden, but I just thought to myself I was in the mood to lay down the plastic, credit card, and I thought, well, I'm in a new place. We will try this again. And so, since you are no help to me at all, let's move on.
Yeah, so I'd like to know about that, a little bit more about it. I mean, I don't like to discuss too many plants that I don't grow because otherwise you're just looking at Google advice and
Yeah.
and book advice too. I get excited about plants that I haven't grown before from the words of other people, but waxing about how to grow them, oh, feel
No
really
idea.
uncomfortable about
So I'll
that.
read the directions. I'll read the little tag. It did have very cool foliage. I know that sometimes you can pick up a Jacob's ladder, and I don't know any cultivar's name that has variegated foliage, and I'm kind of a sucker for that. This had kind of a deep red foliage. Apparently, it will turn into just green foliage in the summer, but turn red again in the fall. But I think it's completely herbaceous and go down to nothing in winter.
So I'll
Anyway,
tell you what, why
what?
not open this up to our wonderful listeners who many of whom are horticulturists. Somehow they're listening to this. I don't know. You guys have nothing to do on a Thursday afternoon. Yeah. And thanks for staying with us. And
They're probably just feeling sorry for us.
so
Oh my God, those women.
it makes them feel better. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Validates their great knowledge because
That's
we
right.
don't seem to have any.
And here's a way for you to do it. Let us know at comments at thegardenmixer.com, or you can go onto our Substack page, which is the Garden Mixer Podcast at Substack. And you can make a comment there and tell not just us, but other people who are reading that, and there are quite a few, that this is how you grow Jacob's Ladder. And you
And
two
we want to
really are
know.
idiots, and we would like to know.
Yeah,
So,
the information doesn't go just one way here. Oh, would you like me to? We got 2 or 3 new reviews on Apple Podcasts.
well, let's do it now. I'm feeling
Okay.
I'm feeling excited. Is it going to bring me down?
No, no. All right, we got this is actually from an acquaintance of mine, a very nice man named Sarome, who is a fabulous gardener in Richmond. And I had him on the show when it was just my show because he does these cute little mini gardens with the tiniest little hostas you've ever seen. And it's just adorable. So if you want to look at his Instagram, he is S Enchanted Garden on Instagram. And his first name is Sarome, sort of like Jerome, but it's Sarome. And he says, Leslie Harris and Marianne Willburn are the perfect combo for this podcast. I have always loved listening to Leslie for the past few years through her other podcast, Into the Garden with Leslie. But with the two of them together, you can't go wrong. I know my clients may think I'm crazy
Oh,
sometimes
we
as I
can. Oh, we can.
and I'm
And
sure
we do.
he knows that now. I know my clients think I'm crazy sometimes as I listen while I work in their gardens, but the humor that these ladies bring to the podcast is worth the looks of people wondering what I'm laughing at. So I love that. So if you are into gardening, you will gain lots of information and inspiration in a very lighthearted way. And yes, I would call them cheeky. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Sarome. Isn't that
Thank
fun?
you, Sarome. That's a wonderful review. I appreciate it. And please leave 15 more just like that. Just in it, slightly, just have AI tweak the voice a little bit, make a few changes to it. But I appreciate that. And we are lighthearted. We're trying, I know that we've talked about, gardening isn't rocket science, but it's complicated. But it helps if you've got people who are approaching it in a lighthearted way. It's not life or death. It's
It's
complicated, but it's not life or death, except
supposed
for
to
the
be
plant.
fun. We're trying to have fun here. All
Yes.
right. So here's one from Wake Robin Garden. Witty, fun, and informative. Like being in the back seat, listening to your friends banter back and forth about all things horticultural. Perfect for a long drive or making spaghetti. I love it.
We are spaghetti
We are
associated.
we are spaghetti. I love a good spaghetti. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Wake Robin.
Spaghetti last night. Cheers to that. Here's to some
Cheers.
good reviews. Please leave
Yes.
us more.
Yeah, we love it. It just builds our egos, which is so needed.
Yeah. After that little thing about the human supremacy thing, I think we're going to get some bad reviews, very bad
Right.
reviews. But that's okay. We'll take them and we'll keep on
So
keeping on.
Brunnera, another adorable blue flower. I'm right about
Brunera,
this.
thank you very much. Brunera.
Brunnera. Ah,
And
come on.
I
Clematis
know
clematis.
so that brings up these ideas of pronunciation. Who knows? It's a dead language, blah, blah, blah. But when it is named for somebody,
Oh, I do have a thing about that. Yeah, I like to honor the person. So who is this? Mr. or
yeah,
Mrs. Bruner? Brune?
yes, Mr. and Mrs. Brune. Dear God. Dear God. No, this was named for the Swiss botanist Samuel Brunner.
Okay.
So, and and actually, I'm guessing at that just because I have a Swiss German mother who would say Brunner. I can't imagine it's Brunner. That sounds
Probably not.
sounds
It's
so
just, yeah.
Californian. Yeah, hi, I'm Sam Brunner. I'm here to work on your plants. So, no, so Brunera, and doesn't matter. It's a
If you
beautiful
say
plant.
if you say Brunnera, people will know what you mean. And what's a common name for that? Is there one?
Yes, and the common name is false forget-me-not.
Yeah, makes sense because it
And
looks just like it,
it
except for
does,
the
except for
leaf.
the leaves are not. And when it was first discovered back at the beginning of the 19th century, it was, and it hadn't been named yet. Well, they did name it, but they didn't name it Brunnera yet. They named it Myosotis macrophylla because
Big
of these
leaf.
big heart-shaped leaves. And that is what it has really going for it. Beautiful forget-me-not flowers in at sort of, well, I can't really say if it's at the same time as myosotis because I'm really only growing myosotis in my garden for the first time this year because last year was somebody else's work and I can't
I
really
would say
say.
yes or slightly later, but I think they overlap. Anyway,
Okay. Because you got to remember that when you're buying something from a nursery, it's not necessarily going to bloom when it's going to bloom, when it's been settled in and its roots are down and, so you're not really sure. So,
but you're buying this one more, or I would. I had it more in my garden because of the foliage. The foliage is awesome.
the foliage is awesome, and it is a plant that will seed itself in very odd, fun places, particularly in walls and staircases and that type of thing. It is not a plant that likes dry conditions. So you might be fooled into thinking that it does because it's coming out of a corner of your staircase or a corner of a wall or right up against a wall. But it's because those roots are getting themselves well down into the nice, cool soil and those nice, cool rocks. It's not because it's a dry stone wall. You're not going to find it in the gravel garden. It's going to be like, piss off, I'm not growing here. So I really need to watch my language. I'm sorry, Leslie. I'm sorry. Mea culpa. Mea
No, you're
culpa.
not. Actually, you're probably not.
Sorry, not sorry.
Mm, mhm.
Um, but it is a fantastic plant for shade gardens, and just keep it on the average moisture side. Don't put it in the dry shade because it's going to struggle a little and the edges of the leaves are going to get burnt and it just won't look its best.
Yeah.
If you cut it back, it will often flush with new growth pretty quickly. Grow just the straight macrophylla, which is pretty much everywhere now. And I grow
It's pretty
Alexander's
much
Grape
everywhere because it's self-sown.
because it's self-sown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Alexander's Great is one of those variegated types, right?
it is. It's a large variegated. It's a very large leaf variegated. But I put it into a dry shade area, and so it really hasn't given me those big, large leaves. I'm going to move it actually this spring to somewhere that it can sort of be all that it can be in the army. Let's see, I've got the variegated, I think it's Hadspin cream, which is
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
yeah, Hadspin, which is sort of a very, I'm sorry, am I boring you?
Okay.
Okay. Dear Lord. Um, I mean, you can go, I could just talk and you could go get a drink or
I'll just
something.
go make myself a bowl of popcorn because that's
Have
what's for
some
dinner.
spaghetti. So, um, and I grow another variegated that I can't remember the name of. So there's a lot of different ones. Overall, the straight species is wonderful. Now, I have read a little bit about it that people are concerned that it may become invasive because it
Mm.
does spread well. It also spreads
It,
and
it forms
also
a nice clump, right?
yeah.
If within
Mhm.
itself. And
Yeah,
is it an Asian? Is it native to Asia, basically?
I think it's Eurasia. I think it's
Okay.
Eastern Europe and Western Asia. And I think it was named after him, but I don't think he found it.
Speaking of plants named after people. Oh,
Wait,
are we done with Brunera? Brunera?
almost. Here's
Okay.
another great thing about it. Deer resistant, folks.
Yeah. And I think every single one of these plants, except for Polemonium, I think the deer like to gnash on that. But they don't like the Myosotis, they don't like the Mertensia, and they don't like the Brunera. And all of those are in the borage family.
They
They
sure
must.
are. So I have not had them eat borage, whatever it is, Barago officinalis. Is that what the
Oh, the
borage is?
yeah, the comfrey. Is that what that is?
No.
No.
Borage, like the borage you put in your drinks. The what when
Oh,
you
well, let's do that next time. I had no idea.
well, when you need to wait for it to bloom.
Oh, okay.
But the borage that people think of as borage, which is the little blue flowers that's like translucent blue that smell of cucumber a little bit, tall and grows in May.
I don't
Really?
know this. No,
So
I don't know this plant.
really? I'm
Yeah.
sending you some seeds.
Okay.
Well, actually, that means nothing to you, does it?
I will stand on my porch with a drink in my hand.
The road is
Let's see
with
how this works for me.
well, actually, with borage, it might work just fine. But maybe I'll bring you some plants. I'll start a couple more, and when I come down and see you at the end of April, I'll give them to you. Is that a
Okay.
deal?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right.
Oh, anything more about Brunera? Because I have thoughts.
Oh, okay, sure.
Not about Brunera.
Oh, okay. No, I think that's it. I think it's just a fun good plant to try.
And all of these will look great with your late daffodils and your tulips and all these things. None of them is well, it turns out that myosotis is a little bit aggressive, but it's very easy to edit. And these could be great understory plants. So we're talking 6-inch tall understory plants for your 12 to 18-inch bulbs. And it's just a kind of a magical combination. Plants that are named after people and the pronunciation thereof. I have 2 Clivia that are coming. And that was Clive, not Clive Owen, but some other Clive. There was a Clive who was involved in that plant. And I saw you did a post on that recently on Instagram because you love that plant too. I love that plant.
I love Clivia. I love it. And I only grow now, thanks to my friend John Willis, I grow 2 species because I only had Clivia lutea, which is the yellow flowered, which is actually harder to get hold of.
Oh, difficult to find. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I had. I didn't have the orange one that's so prevalent in California, Southern California gardens, but John brought me a big blooming one the other day. That is what I put on Instagram. This is a fabulous houseplant because where amaryllis, sort of hippeastrum, the Christmas amaryllis, So where they try to be strappy and beautiful as they're trying to photosynthesize and they fall short because those leaves just go blah and they're awful and you think, why did I even like these at Christmas time? And that's it. No more amaryllis. Clivia is the beautiful, strappy, holds itself, supports itself like a good bra. It's a fabulous plant
And
and
it's
it
a
looks
shinier
good.
leaf. It's a deep, rich, dark green. It's forget the flower part. And it took me years to figure out how to flower. Turns out if you read books, you can find out about these things.
Would you like to share that with our listeners? Book moment with Leslie.
This is
Guys,
a book.
listen, Leslie's about to give you a book moment. It's going to be good.
Well, it's not going to be that good because I can't remember the name of the book. But at some stage, I read in a book about Clivia and how, oh, actually, they love it when they get a little bit stressed out in the fall with some cold temperatures and some lack of water. And that will make them flower because they're like, oh, God, this is bad. I better make some babies here. And I've had these were a plant that I got from my mother in law. And I just had them as greenhouse plants because I was so stupid. And then I read that thing and then I started to get flowers, but she always had Clivia. And so I have Clivia from my mother-in-law who died last fall. Sadly, she made it to 99 and her plants live on and it's very fun.
That's very cool. Now tell me exactly what you do
The magic trick is that they need to get stressed out in the fall or winter and
decide to
have,
bud.
yeah, because you need to give them a message that there isn't a beautiful world where you're just going to keep on getting food and water and
No,
warm
according to some
temperatures.
people, it's a terrible, terrible
It's a
world.
terrible world, and you're going to taste that. You got to stress them out a little bit. Not freezing temperatures, but I keep mine, for instance, in my garage, which outside got to 9 degrees. It probably got down to in the 30s, and they were just fine. And they're shooting up some flowers.
Do you put any light on them?
Well, yeah. So my garage has just, it's south facing, and it just has those funny little windows that garage doors have. So not much light, just a few hours a day.
Oh, that's what Pam Harper used to do with hers. She'd pull them in there, and that's exactly what she had. This is a garden writer, Pam Harper, down in Seaford, Virginia, who passed away 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And she had just those little lights
Yeah.
on the bottom, and that was enough for them. So you take them out in what, February, and bring them into
Yeah, I could take them into my house. At this stage, when I emptied my entire garage of all plants, because I looked at the long range forecast, this was 2, 3 weeks ago, and on Instagram, somebody named Marianne Wilburn at Marianne Wilburn made fun of me and said, "You're playing with fire, girl." But they are sitting right up by on that little terrace, right by my living room. I mean, they're inches away from a very heated room because we are so old and our thermostat is up to 87. And so otherwise, we lose circulation in our fingertips.
and obviously not menopausal.
No, that's way gone. Jeff hasn't had a lot of troubles with that either recently. So, uh, so anyway, they have survived. The flowers are coming, and I will cut the flowers and bring them in, or bring the whole plant in, whatever I decide to do.
Okay, so you guys are a little bit warmer than I am down
Yes,
here. So
yes.
I've just sort of petered along and I get flowers and they're fine, but I think that I know that they could be bigger and more beautiful, but honestly, I'm so enthralled with just the statuesque presence of this plant in my dining room. It's just so beautiful that I'm like, well, bloom, don't bloom, I don't care. And then somebody brings a blooming one, I'm like, oh, now that's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My record was I had this huge plant, and my record was 13 blooms on one plant. And yeah, I had this fantastic place to have them up in Connecticut. We called it the tile room. It was just tile and screens and stuff, but I could sort of winterize it, but it was colder. Anyway, that's where that beautiful thing happened. A terrible, tragic thing happened one night when in Connecticut, it got down to 4 degrees and one of those old doors blew open. Clivia, all gone. But one of them, a little pup of one of them survived. So that same plant is, although much smaller, I have two small ones and a couple others that are bigger. It's still going on. Oh, one more quick story about the yellow Clivia. Do you ever have buyer's regret or buyer's remorse?
Yes, but it's usually for appliances.
Okay, is it when, God, I should have bought that, or shoot, I'm sorry that I bought that?
It's always, I'm so sorry that I bought that. No.
All right. Well, I rarely think I really should have bought that. I really should have bought that. But $20 yellow Clivia in the Stop and Shop in Connecticut Well, so that had to have been at least 15 years ago. And I'm on an austerity kick and I'm going to stick to my list. And I'm looking at this plant. I'm like, and that is what I did. And I bought my generic, Stop and Shop butter and milk. And I went home and I'm still sad. I still think that's my plant. And I screwed it up.
Had that experience with a mirror once. Actually, same exact thing. We're on an austerity kick, and I got student loans, got to be austere. And we had made this decision like, I shop so many thrift stores. I will not make any big purchases without talking to you first. And there was this beautiful $40 mirror. Gorgeous, huge, beautiful gilt edge frame, and it's $43. And I'm looking at it going, that is the deal of the century. But I told Michael that I would not do it. And he's definitely going to say no because he doesn't want another mirror. He's a guy. What does he need another mirror for? And I still think about that mirror. And I still have the place on my wall that it could have been on.
So your mirror might be like reflecting my beautiful yellow Clivia that I didn't bring home. We can only just drink some more.
I'll tell you what, I can fix that for you because I have a lot of Clivia lutea and I would be happy to give you some. And yes, I can make that happen.
So much better.
Are
I
you?
might even give you back your golden spade when you come down here.
Thank you. Do you happen to have a gilt-edged mirror? Trade for it?
I'll go try to find one.
Maybe. Okay. So I can fix that. But you know what? You and I need to start looking around for these Clivias that are bicolored blooms. I mean, when we were at Chelsea, we stood and talked with you in that dress in front of.
It must have been a particularly good or bad dress. I hope it was good if you remember.
I remember you wearing a dress and me going, "What does not compute? Does not compute." And we stood in front of the Clivia exhibition in the Great Pavilion, and it definitely was a great exhibition in the Great Pavilion.
And there were all kinds of cultivars now that we need to have.
They are easier than a lot of plants and very satisfying and structurally so beautiful.
Oh, I love those. But going with what will do well, like I went shopping today and I brought home those two Emma hellebores, which I think they're going to make me really happy. But I also
look this up while we're talking. I am so curious what Emma looks like.
It's gorgeous. But I also pushed the easy button in terms of a bunch of annuals for my front border this year. And I'm just going to do this kind of boring and sip, but you kind of can't go wrong with green, white, and purple. So I bought the purple salvia, the one that everybody gets, the tall one, and alyssum, white alyssum, because bunnies don't eat alyssum. It's so boring, but I know it's going to look good. And I am not going to be around a lot this summer, and I just need it to look good and not to die. Sometimes you do that. What did you find out about Emma?
I found out that it's a Niger cross, which makes me think that it's going to be, is it white?
No, it's got this crazy like pinkish greenish.
So those are the sepals, and that's the awesome thing about hellebores is that those sepals keep the show going. I mean, they are sepals anyway, but meaning that they have aged, and hellebores age. They age into greens and deep pinks. Those what we think of are petals. They're not petals. They're sepals. And that's the cool thing about them is it keeps that show going.
Because this was still a plant that I was not going to leave behind. It was beautiful.
Right. Exactly. And we really should do something on hellebores, actually, because yet another plant that people hate that I found out today, that there's plenty of people who think that it will be the next invasive and people shouldn't plant it and yada, yada, yada. And you're looking for things that the deer won't eat.
Yeah. Or bunnies.
Or bunnies, and hellebores are one of those. They eat that down to the ground.
I've gardened at a garden where they ate Iris germanica. Just like could not. Yeah. They were also eating English ivy off of they were jumping a fence to eat English ivy. These were unusual deer. Unusual.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're adapting. Okay. So I'm a big fan of hellebores, and because there's a lot of heartbreak out there. I had a lot this winter. In fact, I was looking at pictures for April of last year and saw the beauty of one of my white variegated shrubs that's going to be nameless because I'll be made fun of if I say what it is, that be against another shrub, which I will also remain nameless, but it's beautiful in red. And at this time of year, gorgeous, but both of them eaten to the ground. So
What
yeah.
can you do? All right. Well, I think we've done it, and we'll get a guest on there sometime soon. But we have no idea. We're trying to figure this out, Marianne and I.
Oh, I know. We are still, we're in our early days. It's like we're like a young garden right now, a very, very young garden. We're figuring out what works, what doesn't. And please join us for One More Sip, which is a very fun new thing that we have decided to do where we take one topic and we talk about it for 10 or 15 minutes. And it's just a nice little snatch in between our off weeks when we have the longer podcast. And that
Yeah.
keeps us a little sane, a little more sane than doing the podcast every week, which no human being should be expected to do unless you are Joe Rogan with a huge production crew. And we ain't, baby.
Yeah. It's just us.
It's
Just us and our daffodils and our drinks.
and our drinks. Yes. So comments at gardenmixer.com. Let us know. Put a review on there on Spotify and Substack and everything else. And great to be with you. And bye, girl.
Bye.
Cheers. Wait, I'm sniffing too. Bigger bouquet, bigger bouquet.
So much bigger. Oh my God.